Hello, you fellow entertainment junkies. My name is Ruffalick, and welcome to the Shadow Dance achievement. So this achievement is basically just do Shadow Raid on Overkill or above using an Amcar, Chinamo 88 pistol, no skills, suit and tie, and that's about it. You can choose whatever perk deck you want because you cannot unequip a perk deck, so they allow you to use whatever one you want, and you also can use whatever equipment you want, as you can have equipment now without skills. So the best equipment I find for this is to have the body bag, because the ECMs just don't work too well without the skills for them. Without the skills, you can't block pagers, and it's pretty much just an extra 20 seconds of survivability, which isn't much in Shadow Raid. And if you get caught, you might as well start anyways. So we're gonna do this in one down because there is no reason to not do this in one down. The only downside to doing this in one down is that the enemies have 720 health instead of the normal smaller amounts that you would get on Overkill. That is about the only difference. Cameras are still the same. The amount of guards are still the same. The cameras on this mission are in fact titanium cameras like they are on other Death Wish missions. Although on Shadow Raid, you generally do not want to kill cameras just because of the fact that there is a lot of cameras and the guards will detect them. And because the guards have such free reign on this map, they will most likely detect them. So, in the pre-planning phase, I go and do a little bit of different things than I normally would. I go and get an extra loot point drop-off on the other end because I do not have the ability to place body bags because I do not have the skills. So, let's jump right into this mission. So, immediately I come off onto the side here and go onto the building through the roof. The reason why I do this is because the second floor is probably the most dangerous place on the entire map for guards, because you're in such a confined area and there's not very many places to hide, especially on the top floor. On the bottom floor, there's a lot more areas to hide, but on the top floor, the guards tend to walk through all the boxes so that you can't really even hide behind them. You can kind of dance around them and stuff, but later on, if when there's a helicopter that comes in, and there's a good chance that it'll drop off extra guards, especially on 1 down difficulty. They'll drop off 4 extra guards, which will walk around the entire warehouse, like the other Murky Water guards, but they will cause it to be extra hard. So in this mission, I actually got a very unlucky spawn of this one stationary guard right in the middle of the room there. Now, that stationary guard usually is walking around. It's very rare to actually see a stationary guard, but he can spawn in a couple of locations if he is stationary. It's kind of bad luck, good luck, because it allows you to easier to take down a guard, so it's an extra guard down. But on this mission, you generally want more pagers than you actually want to get rid of guards. So in this case, I decided to take them down a little bit later because the top floor is really good for drops. So right off the bat, I'm looking for crowbars, I'm looking for other drops, just whatever I can find. So in this case, I found a server and some money, but I could not find a crowbar over there, so I'm gonna, at this point, I'm taking down this guard so that I have access to the rest of the top floor. Normally I would go off into the back area and I would take out the security cameras, but unfortunately, because I don't have any skills in this mission, I've decided not to take down the security guard and instead just deal with the cameras. Cameras are more annoying on the inside than they are the outside, so I don't really have to worry about them after the point I'm done with the inside. So at this point, I'm just looking around for absolutely anything I can find. The biggest thing is I need to find a crowbar so that I can access these crates and then be done with the upstairs completely. Now, because I got a painting crate outside in the hallway there, it's a lot better that I go and get it, because then it's just an extra piece of loot. Now that thing can spawn in either the cages that you can see around, or they can also spawn in just downstairs inside the main warehouse. And because it spawned up here, I prefer getting it so that I have the extra piece of loot. It's better than trying to go and find a piece of loot later on and just get it out of the way right now. Now, the biggest thing is I need to act somewhat quickly because I do not want the guys to show up and just give reinforcements and make it a lot harder. So I want to get done with the top floor before that happens. Unfortunately, this guy decided to go into that room and just kind of block my way to the back area. Now, this guy, these guards generally don't go into that room that you see there, but, so it's generally a good place to hide, but unfortunately sometimes guards are there. Now, with this being 1 down difficulty and such a small area, I find that the best thing to do is when you're going for a place, it's best to commit to it. If you decide to stop or have second guesses, you're most likely going to get caught rather than not. Now, I'm looking at the wall there just because sometimes there can be a coke that spawns on the little pallet there, or, well, a little shelf there, I should say. And if it spawns on the shelf, you can actually grab it through the wall there, so you just don't have to walk around and all that kind of stuff. So that area back there as well is where the door to the security cam area, but I didn't want to take them down for the reasons that I gave off earlier. So now at this point, I just want to grab the painting, and then I want to grab the one extra crate that's in the main room there, and then I'll be done with the top floor. There's other things that you could do, not much other things, like you could try and go for the cages, though those things are never recommended. There's much better loot all over the map that it's just a lot easier to deal with. So I'm just going to go and try my chance at the crate. The crates are random whether they drop loot or not, and you will not know if they drop loot until you actually open them. They are generated on the fly. So in this case, I got lucky and just got money. So at this point, now that I'm done with the second floor, I will take down a safe route. Now, I'm a little excited there because I actually got a very rare occurrence. If you notice there, you can see the helicopter flying off in the distance, but on top of it, the helicopter had a little second shadow just below it. That means it's carrying a crate, and because it's carrying a crate, it will not, in fact, bring reinforcements. Now, you can actually force it to do this by staying on the roof. Apparently, I haven't really tried this out too much, because it's just hard to tell it's hard to really time out your escape. It's really hard to time out your route so that you'll actually be in the right location to kind of force it. So I just don't really bother with it, and I haven't really done a lot of testing with it. I'm actually not sure if that's still true anymore. So this stationary guard down here unfortunately showed up at this door. He can either show up here or he can show up on the other end of the dock around the corner. He'll be stationary over there. If he shows up in that other spot, you can actually sneak by him just fine, and this entire dock area is free to roam. So you want to kill him here because you cannot pass him on this dock, and you definitely want to have access to this dock, because if you have access to this dock, you're pretty much free to roam anywhere down here. There is no guards except for the one on the left there on one down. He only shows up on one down and Death Wish difficulty, but he kind of just climbs up and down the stairs and around that back alley that we started in. Now, he won't notice those bags as long as you position them just right. If you throw them too far forward, he will notice them, but in this case, he does not, because I've placed them in a decent position. So, for the thermite that I use it on this grate, and I use it on the one on the right later on. The reason why I use it on these two positions is because they're pretty much the only ones that I find worthwhile. You can do it from the street, but I find that's a little less necessary, especially if you get the zip line to the tugboat, because the harbor ends up being a very nice area to just have as a hub where you can be nice and safe and bring a whole bunch of items to, and just have an easier trip to move everything. So now I'm going to do my rounds on the first floor. Because I don't have many skills, I don't really want to go into the warehouse and try and search there. I'd rather take my luck on the outside, where I find it's a little bit easier to move around because you have more room and there's a lot more crates to protect you from being seen. So I only go for these 3 items, and I don't bother going into the warehouse. I also note that there is no more coke on the map. So there's sometimes a coke in the locker room. There can also be one on the bottom floor here in the bottom floor here in the basement where the guard was standing stationary, but I killed. But because there's no more coke on the map, I know that there will be no more in those areas. So there's no reason to go and search in those areas. So with those 3 items, I find that it's much safer to just be done with the warehouse and try my luck at finding loot in the main yard. Now, at this point, I am using an extra thermal paste here. I use this again because I find the dock area to be a nice hub area, so you want it connected to the hub rather than be all connected to the main street. And this is the only other area I find worth having access to, because this allows you to get to one specific crate in the main yard that is pretty much otherwise unobtainable. You can get to it, but it's just so difficult that it's not really worth trying to get to. other than through this way. Now, because I do not have Sixth Sense, I have to be very careful when exiting the manholes. You can be pretty much insta-spotted if you just come darting out of the manhole if there's happens to be a guard around, and it's just generally unsafe. Unfortunately, there was no money in this crate. There will only be monies in this crate, in these crates on the main yard, but there can also be a crowbar spawn if you have not actually found a crowbar, though that's very rare and often hard to see, especially if you're going for concealment weapons and you do not have a compact flashlight. I generally prefer the laser over the flashlight just because it's easier aiming on longer distances, and you generally want to be able to kill guards in one hit. If you wait for a little while and get detected, if you get detected, you will not do an insta-kill damage, but if you are undetected and you shoot at a cop, you will actually do the maximum amount of health that they have. So it's how I'm able to take down murky water guards with 720 health with a really crappy weapon. So now I'm just gonna move all of this stuff because I want to have an easier time if things go south. Even though I realize at this point, if things go south, it's going to be a restart because I do not have any skills, so I have no means of really getting out. The only way that I could actually be safe is if I actually get 11 out of 12 bags, and then I can just go run around, find the last bag, and get out. Because you only have, I believe it's 60 seconds still on one down, and once it goes loud, and I generally just don't want to deal with this. So I also go down in this sort of fashion. I kind of have this weird way of getting down. Ladders in this game can be a little bit funky, and they are unreliable at times. So I just kind of don't bother with them and kind of take this own separate route that I find to be a lot more consistent on getting up and down places. Now I just have a little bit of trouble getting through this fence here, but I get down it quickly. So now I am going to move through my regular route through the yard. Even though things are going to be a little bit trickier. So I get lucky right off the bat and immediately find money in these crates. I'm going to have to go through a whole bunch of other crates and find more money. So you may be able to, if you notice on my wolf HUD, there are 4 money bags left. Those money bags can either be spawned in the warehouse or in the crates. The ones in these crates outside are actually labeled beforehand before you open the crates, unlike the crates that you have to open up with a crowbar. The ones that you have to open up with a crowbar are generated on opening, but these ones are generated before the match even starts. So it's a little disappointing to know that you are opening these things and it's like, well, there's always a good chance that there's nothing in there, just because the game thought RNG would be fun. So right off the bat, I go looking. I stay in there for a little bit longer because sometimes there can actually be 2 money bags that can spawn in one of these. So I want to make sure that I have all of the money from all of these crates at all times, because I just want to get out of here as soon as possible because this is Shadow Dance. I don't have any skills. I don't want to try and get other things. If you want to go for armor, it's generally not recommended in solo and is very RNG based. There's a very high chance that it's not going to happen. And as I was saying before, you want to commit to the movements that you do. So right there, it was a moment where I just have to commit. You pretty much just have to accept the fact that if you're going to get caught, you're going to get caught. You have to be careful at all times before you go. Look twice before you go, but once you decide to go, you have to commit to it. There's no second guessing, really. Unless you're like right at the beginning of the commitment, then you can turn around, but you generally do not want to go, because if you decide to second guess yourself, chances are you're going to panic. You're going to cause yourself to just be a deer in the headlights, and you'll end up more likely being caught. So I unfortunately got a lot of the guards off on this end right off the bat, so I have to kind of wait for them to all leave before I'm able to go and get these other crates. So I'm going to go for this crate on the top here, which is a little bit of a riskier crate, but it's actually not that bad. You just got to make sure that you have to jump over here onto the edge and then jump back and back into the crate again. So it requires a little bit of jumping, so you have to be careful. And there I'm showing off that there is in fact a crowbar in that crate, so if I didn't have a crowbar, I'd be able to get one right then. But at this point, it would be a little bit worthless because I've already done most of my inside stuff already. So Now it's just a matter of waiting and getting through the yard. I'm going to go and check over all the crates that I possibly can, try and be as careful as possible, and just try and not get caught. If you get caught out here, it can get really, really bad, but you can also tend to save it. So if you do get caught, it's not game over. Just take them out really quickly. It's better to kill people than to actually tie them up in the yard here, just because moving hostages is just not very fun in this yard. Now, it used to be very safe along this back wall, but then a patch happened a long time ago that actually made it so now it's no longer safe along the back wall. You're a lot safer along the back wall, but as you can see, guards will come up pretty close to the back wall now. So it's just a matter of being aware of your surroundings and making sure to always be watching absolutely everywhere. In this case, you can see that I'm immediately turning back and forth because I want to make sure that no guards walk along this back wall. I'm also trying to figure out the best strategy for what I can do. I only need one more bag now, so if I do get caught, I have still a chance of succeeding. I just need to be very, very, very quick. Now, I'm going to move on to this last crate here. There's another crate right up here, but that's probably the riskiest crate in my opinion. Just because you cannot open it from this side, you have to go towards the middle of the yard, and that can be a lot more problematic. So at this point, there are 3 more money bags on the map, and these can be inside or outside. So I could have gotten very unlucky and had to go back inside for the last money item, but if I had to go back inside, I would go for the crates inside the warehouse instead of looking for the other money bag, because it would most likely be inside one of the caged areas, and those are pretty much a lost cause, especially if you have no skills, in which you would need actually silent drilling to get those open without being detected. Or you could kill all the guards on the inside, but that's not really going to happen. So as I was saying, more along the idea of committing to your actions, this is probably one of the worst crates to come out of. So once you come out, you want to come out nice and fast, and you want to just keep going, because you're less likely to get spotted if you just keep going. If you stand still, you're more likely to get spotted, and even though the detection rate goes up faster when you're moving, you'll get out of the way a lot faster too. So I have this ledge is always a little bit of trouble getting up on. But you can easily get up through there. You have to crouch on the way through it, but it's a nice and easy way. And then that's about it for the mission. That's it. Nice and easy. Well, not very easy, but it's not the worst mission in the game. That'll come at a later date. But this is one of the oldest and best, in my opinion, missions for stealthing. And thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this little video. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye!